Person Theory, a place for gameplay, lore, and chill vibes. Today we are playing the Invincible. We're going to play the first 40 minutes to an hour of the game. It is now available in the PlayStation Plus library. We will also be covering a lot of the history of the game, both in terms of in-game world and the history of the development. As you can see, I've just started the game and we've already got some dialogue options. I think this game, from what I heard, is quite a slow burn. And I've actually been waiting to play it, and I thought this would make a great video because of its very quiet, slow nature. Let's see if we can move around now. Okay, we can move the head. And okay, we can open this. I have to say, when it was first released, I was really interested, but it kind of disappeared without any fanfare. And yeah, when it was came to PlayStation Plus recently, I thought it would be really good to play this. I have actually messed around with it a little bit already, but the controls seem not to be to my liking. So let's start with the history of the game. So when Starwood Industries, the Invincible, arrived on modern consoles and PC in late 2023, it did something that felt both retro and startlingly fresh. It took a cold mid-20th century science fiction premise and asked a 21st century audience to move slowly through it. The result is less a guns-blazing spectacle than a patient, atmospheric investigation. A game that trades the adrenaline of combat for sustained unease, philosophical questions, and the tactile pleasures of exploration in a richly imagined alien environment. I like the journals in this game, and also, yeah, you can see it's quite cool. Everything's kind of, I love when the menus are like in-game real items, if you know what I mean, instead of just a paused overlay. So you can see here the map is properly in-game, and a lot of the stuff you pick up and use is the same as this. So, you describe this as a game that trades adrenaline in combat for the atmosphere, basically. And it was born from a Polish studio of industry veterans and inspired by one of Poland's most famous science fiction authors. So the Invincible is a piece of interactive fiction, really, that reveals as much about the act of exploring as it does about the cost of humanity's certainty I'm just flicking through these pages because I'm not exactly sure where I'm supposed to go yet. As I mentioned, it was released 2 years ago, and I did play a little bit of it at that time. And I remember the controls to me, that's the needle there. It wasn't really to my liking. For example, you'll see in a moment when you climb over an object or something, you're just basically pressing forwards. Like, I think it would be better to have an action button or something like that. The game's very linear, I would say, and then also certain places, it's just, it could be a lot more free, in my opinion, but I do like it, don't get me wrong. It's the atmosphere and the world building that makes this game worth playing. So the game's conceptual roots are explicit. It adapts motifs and the central conceit of Stanisław Lem's 1964 novel, The Invincible, which is a Cold War era hard sci-fi text that explores technological hubris, emergent systems, and ecological unknowability, rather than offering a line-by-line translation of Lem's plot. The development team framed their work as an interpretation, a transposition of Lem's theme into an interactive Atompunk visual language that lets players inhabit the sensory and moral dilemmas of the source material. That approach allowed Starwood to remain faithful to the novel's spirit, its suspicion of anthropogenic triumphalism, and its fascination with non-human processes, while reworking character perspectives, structure, and pacing to suit the game as a medium. So starting this game, you want to pick this rope up straight away. So it doesn't actually tell you to do that, and if you don't, you have to come all the way back in a little bit and get it, which I think is very frustrating. Not because that exists, but because you can easily miss this, I guess. And if you don't pick it up, all the way down here, and then you need that rope kind of thing. So make sure you pick it up. This shows the story so far in this cool comic book, like a retro novel style. I do like this. So this kind of adaptive stance is not slavish fidelity, but thematic fidelity. It has precedent in game development. Many studios take literary or cinematic source material and reinterpret it into something that allows for or maximizes interactivity.
Oh, I have something on the tracker. I assume it's no one.
For The Invincible, that meant reframing the story as a first-person investigative journey led by Yasna, an astrobiologist, that's who we're playing now, who uses analog tools and scientific reasoning to, amid a hostile, enigmatic surface environment. The game explicitly emphasizes player choice and moral ambiguity, inviting players to make decisions that influence character relationships and the pacing of revelation. narration.
On your trackers.
So like I said right at the beginning, right from the get-go, the first thing you can do is basically make a choice on what you want to reply. And then this is what I mean about, there's not really an action button for going over these things. It's just push forward again. I think that could be done better. The game here we go into a cutscene now. So Starwood Industries formed in the late 2010s as a Krakow-based studio built by developers who had backgrounds at larger Polish companies. The team combined veterans from AAA houses with newer voices from the indie scene, producing a studio identity that balanced production discipline with a taste for narrative experimentation. That combination mattered, so the Invincible required high production values, convincing alien vistas. I'm just looking at the cutscene now. A dense sound design and a cinematic performance cast alongside patient narrative rhythm that rewarded careful design rather than spectacle.
In small sips.
I don't think you can call it a AAA game.
Always the first one to get up.
But
I don't know how you do it, Merritt.
from what they had to work with, I would say that it looks great, especially the vistas. The studio's ambition was evident from early public statements. The team wanted an experience that felt tactile and analog in its technology, the narrative retro future aesthetic, while also embracing modern rendering and environmental storytelling. The studio's collaboration with publisher 11-Bit Studios, best known for This War of Mine and Frostpunk, amplified the project's reach and signaled a commitment to mature, thought-provoking content.
Guess we'll find out. But first, here, hold on to it and remember.
11-Bit's decision to support Starwood was strategic. It fit into a publishing portfolio that accepts risk and values narrative depth. I don't think I can do anything over here now. Let's get out of this pond.
Okay.
The partnership also provided Starwood with resources for quality assurance, marketing and multi-platform release logistics, financial and distribution support from an experienced publisher allowed the smaller team to aim for a multi-platform launch with higher production polish than many indie narrative games manage.
I think I see our ship.
Look at that.
You're not leaving without me, are you?
Yeah, so it's obviously
We
an
found a
indie
way out of the valley,
game.
leading more or less towards the camp.
But games done well and within, the boundary of what they can do often can come up really well. So let's talk about the design. Arguably the most striking design decision for the Invincible is its insistence on restraint. So rather than equipping the player with a broad arsenal or a wide set of flashy abilities, the game supplies period-appropriate things at once. Practically, they serve as puzzle, navigation, and investigative gameplay. Thematically, they underline the story's scientific framing. The player is an observer and a reasoner, not a military superhero. Personally, I like being a scientist. The emphasis supports slower pacing and a different kind of tension, the sense that each discovery reframes the problem. Instead of resolving it, resolving it. So as you can see here, it's kind of that, we landed, go to this next place, and a new problem is created, how to solve that problem, and then, kind of that first initial thing fades away with more discoveries, I guess, and new problems to solve. But again, great looking game. At its heart, the Invincible wrestles with a cluster of philosophical questions that are easy to summarize and hard to leave behind. You know from this channel that one of the things I like about games is the way you can explore certain topics to a depth which perhaps other mediums can't do, or do in a very different way. What does it mean to encounter the genuinely alien? How do scientific practices reshape and sometimes blind the observer? What ethical responsibilities do explorers owe to the ecosystems that they disturb? These are some of the questions. So the game structures its story as an investigative arc. The player seeks missing crewmates, uncovers traces of what happened on Regis 3, and negotiates choices of which moral balance is rarely black or white. Okay, so we've got to the edge now, and this is where you need the rope. So if you didn't already pick that up, I guess you go back for it now. Which will be a bit of a ball ache, I guess.
I'm starting my descent. I'll be at the bottom soon.
But that's there. So the structure of the game allows for several narrative textures. There are haunted house moments, corridors of silence, artifacts that recall vanished presences. There are puzzle sequences that reward deduction, and there are dialogue exchanges in which the player's decisions reflect competing priorities: curiosity, survival, loyalty, or retreat. The game's branching narrative approach doesn't simply create alternate endings as a gimmick, it makes the experience feel personal. The player's choice shapes how characters speak to another, how the truth is framed, and which ethical questions are foreground. The novel's cosmic skepticism inflects the game's conclusion. So many path lines refuse tidy closure, maintaining Lab's insistence on ambiguity and the danger of anthropocentric assumptions. So basically, what the game lacks for in combat or something, it makes up for in atmosphere and choice and moral ambiguity. One of the more interesting technical achievements in the Invincible how the environment itself functions narratively. Terrain, lighting, and procedural placement of encounters work together to suggest a world that is not merely a backdrop, but an agent of storytelling. But then that goes in contrast with like what I said about having a little bit more freedom to move around, even if that's just to be able to jump off rocks or something.
Did I black out again?
Scenes of abandoned equipment, stump vegetation, odd non-human marks become the equivalent of text in a non-linear essay. Players reconstruct events by moving through space.
Yes, and hopper closer to the camp.
Can we go down there? Don't
Find a
think
place
so.
to land.
Have to go. Do we have to go around this way?
To Dragonfly as soon as possible. Go to the infirmary and do a
Don't
full
know.
sample test on myself.
That looks cool. So, Unreal Engine's capabilities enabled this kind of volumetric fog, and as I was saying, the dynamic lighting and subtle post-processing that contributes to the world's mood without calling attention to itself. Equally, the game's UI and the tools in-game are minimalistic by design. As I mentioned, I think that's really cool. The scanner readouts and handheld instruments are integrated visually so that the player rarely leaves the world to interrogate separate menus or something like that, which again I think is really cool. But then there is a lot of cutscenes of different times, so it's not like it keeps you immersed into this one space. I don't know, maybe I'm nitpicking. Like just climbing this rock face is very immersive, but at the same time it is just pressing forward on the joystick. They could have perhaps made it a bit more interactive in that way. That's all I'm saying. I guess it feels more like reading through a really interesting book. I wouldn't want to say a walking simulator because it's more than that. So now we're going into cutscene. It tells you a lot about the way, the reason for their journey. And I guess a lot of foreshadowing.
Atmosphere? Nitrogen 78%.
So this dialogue and performance were central to the game's attempt to convey human stakes amid cosmic indifference. The lead character's voice and supporting cast were recorded to emphasize intimacy and nuance. Small vocal inflections convey fatigue, hope, or suspicion in ways that text alone cannot, because so much of the game pertains to ideas rather than action. The subtleties of voice acting are central to audience engagement. A whispered line after a tense discovery can land harder than an explosion. Reviews repeatedly noted that the voice work and character writing anchored the often abstract philosophical content in human emotion.
Some seaweed, algae. But why didn't
So yeah, it's one of the highlights for sure.
I don't think so.
I don't know, these games kind of always remind me a bit of
I wonder if some special kind of drought
everybody's gone to the Rapture.
That would at least explain
Those games by the China Room.
Anyway, we'll have to take a look under the water.
I guess it's that feeling of a very real world, even though this is obviously set in space. And a very real world feeling of loneliness and isolation.
Such a fossilized egg must be at least 6 billion years old. Besides, the sun's seen better days too.
If you haven't played Still Wakes the Deep, I would highly recommend it. It's a very short game,
We would have to explore the surface. Astrogator,
And-
what exactly are we looking for?
but you will get an emotional punch from it probably.
I'm sure you would leave the street not without worth.
So these kind of games I definitely think are worthwhile.
With all due respect, Astrogator,
So let's talk about reviews. Beyond Raw Scores, The Invincible sparked conversations about adaptation. What obligations do developers have to a canonical work by an author like Lem? Star Wars answer: preserve the novels,
correct. What do they have to do?
philosophy,
They've sent their most
but
powerful
reinterpret narrative from an interactivity standpoint.
I'm not talking about the Condor.
So, the Invincible.
Wait,
Good guess, Doctor. A steel behemoth with the power to produce billions of
just
kilowatts
checking
of
something.
converting it into energy fields that no material
While this
body
cutscene plays out.
concentrating it into destructive rays as hot as stars that can reduce a mountain range to dust, evaporate an ocean, together with its crew of almost
So
100
even as purists debated the merits of non-literal
I dare to say
adaptation,
we're better trained, Astrogator.
they proved their point defensible. The game also fed a broader appetite for slow narrative games, with the philosophical ambitions adding to a portfolio of experience that treat play as a reflective act.
Emotional and symbolic facade. In other words, we cannot ignore facts
And,
just because we don't like them.
I think it is.
But where do we stand in all this? Together with our, may I say, not
So
quite
why
as
did the
numerous
Invincible
self?
matter in
Despite our
2023?
modest forces,
Part of the
we still
answer
have
lies
to
in the
be
cultural
critical
mode.
while avoiding
Audiences were and are interested in media that interrogates technological optimism
leave this planet before the Invincible
at a time of
which
rapid
is
and
where-
sometimes unsettling scientific change.
Astrogator, please. How
If you
much
know
time
nothing
do
of
we
this
have
game
to
when you go
conduct
into it, you
research?
expect probably the technology
No
to
time
turn
lose
out to
then.
be
I
bad.
appreciate you letting us go. Doctor,
But no
please,
spoilers.
in full gear.
The game's central
Also, I caution
concern,
you against taking
the
off your
limits
helmet
of human
while
mastery over other systems, which resonates in the era of AI, climate complexity, and ecological independence.
But
By staging a conflict between human and assumptions and emergent systems on a distant planet, the game offered a way to think about familiar ethical dilemmas in an altered form.
And what about me?
You're staying on board, Doctor.
Another part of its relevance is its aesthetic. Atompunk is more than nostalgia. It's a design language that lets creators critique modernity by returning to an earlier imagined future. The Invincible, the analog instruments and retro tech are not mere style. They're a narrative device that frames scientific temper as both noble and fallible.
Oh, thank goodness.
That framing encourages players to think about the values embedded in scientific practice itself.
Do you copy?
What gets measured, what gets sacrificed, and
Is
which
anyone out there?
voices are silenced in pursuit of knowledge.
Androbot.
Okay, so we're at the camp now.
Androbot. Guide
There's
me
this
to
little
the nearest
robot
crew
guy.
member.
What are you
Androbot.
doing, robot?
Guide to people. Androbot.
Oh, he's broken down.
Locate human. Damn.
Okay, we can
I'm
go in
reporting
here
a robot malfunction.
into one of these
No response
tents.
to voice commands. Cause unknown.
Who's this? So at first I didn't actually expect to see anyone.
Didn't you hear me earlier?
This was a pleasant surprise that it would be quite,
Doctor,
you know,
is everything alright?
a strong part of the is without shortcomings. Critics pointed to moments where the game's mechanics felt thinly matched to its questions, or where repeated environmental gestures produced diminishing returns. Some players wanted deeper systems or more agency over the world's trajectory. That's me. Others accepted the trade-off, recognizing that tightened mechanics might have undercut the meditative quality the team saw. I guess that's also me.
Wait, please. I need to reconnect.
Pragmatically, ambitions to balance cinematic fidelity with branching narrative complexity sometimes yielded less polish in auxiliary systems, a not uncommon trade-off for small studios working at high production values.
And he's not well. What happened to him?
I was just about to examine him.
I think the things I wanted were very small, though, to be honest. I don't think they would have taken a lot of
Temperature
jerry rigging.
pulse 2. O2 saturation is fine. There's nothing physically wrong.
The legacy of the Invincible will likely be uneven, but meaningful.
His pupils respond properly.
And hopefully, like a lot of more people have got to play it since it became available last week on PS Plus. So for fans of contemplative science fiction games, it stands as a model for how careful adaptation and environmental storytelling can make philosophical ideas feel immediate. For developers, it demonstrates the commercial and critical visibility available to studios that dare to marry literary source material with modern production values.
On the contrary, something is very wrong with him.
Finally, the continuing conversation about games and literature. Starwood's work offers a case study in creative fidelity and adaptation needed, not be literal, to be honest or true to the original author's intent.
For the mission log should include crucial data about the crew's activities. We have 3 more people to find, and you still need to designate a place for the landing.
I think visually it's good. Okay, let's look around now. So I guess picking this up is unavoidable as part of the game.
Hello?
Let's go through here.
Anyone else here? I found Dr.
And
Crowther.
there we are. Another in-game journal book. Great.
It's not a mission log, but it will do. Dr. Crowther kept records. Meticulous as always.
Initial analysis of the samples revealed nickel, iron, magnesium, manganese, beryllium, and titanium. So you can see here how this all works. Are you playing the game? Let me know in the
From the
comments.
research sector to the west.
Ah, that's right. Follow those deposits of metal.
The Invincible is not for everyone. It's not for every player. It asks for patience and curiosity and a willingness to sit with ambiguity.
Excellent. Uploading the data. Starting calibration.
But I think it's like the same with Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2.
Are you looking for the
The
detector?
second game seems to be much more widely accepted, and I guess times are changing. But then they also did kind of,
I don't understand why it wouldn't. It's a rather
a buckle
reliable piece of
and
equipment.
added a lot of combat gameplay to Death Stranding 2 and made it like 100 times easier. So.
Touche, sir.
But for those prepared to accept those terms, the game offers rewards that are rare in contemporary interactive entertainment. The slow dawning of understanding, the visual and acoustic pleasure of a thoroughly realized alien world, and the intellectual tug of of philosophical questions that refuse easy answers.
It's unresponsive.
Its development story, a small Polish-based studio working with a publisher to adapt a canonical article. That looks cool again. Points to how games can reasonably and intriguingly translate literature into play. At a time when many entertainment forms rush forward, the Invincible invites us to slow down, to listen, and to reconsider what it means to look at the unknown.
What about the rest of the crew? You're gonna make them wait?
If the androbot isn't working properly, I can't just leave Krauter like this.
Let's fix this robot. Hey, robot.
Proceed as you deem fit.
You don't tell me what to do, robot.
I've got bad news. Our signal is far too weak to restart the androbot.
And then
The
we
relay
can...
malfunction.
Not exactly. It's completely fried. I don't think a sandstorm could cause such damage.
Well, that's irrelevant now, Doctor. There must be a
Oh,
spare
a little bit
somewhere
of
in the
sliding.
camp. Please search for it.
See, look at that. That's so cool. I really like that. Look at those instructions. But I can't remember where you picked that up. Is that it? Nope. I guess it's in here.
No luck. They're not in here.
Has anyone out there read the novel? Have you read it in its original language? If so, let us know. Be interesting to know what you think
Have the extra relay.
about the changes they made. Or if you know if they really kept that original, vibe. Let's plant this down here. Okay. Nice. That looks great. Okay, where to next?
Unconnected. What happened here?
Is it gonna work?
We'll see.
So we saw this area over here.
Systems. That should help. Good, good.
Why
See the
did...
instructions.
What is that over there? Okay. It looks like some kind of surveying equipment. We don't need to do that yet.
I don't know if the androbot should already...
Let's fix this guy up.
Is it still frozen?
Yes, unfortunately.
And get him working.
Positronic brain.
But it does have that kind of ominous feel.
Receptors.
As soon as we get him working, he'll turn against us.
It worked. He moved.
Finally. Arthur should
What's
be ready
going
now.
on?
Does he? Positional data hasn't
He
changed.
still can't walk.
Well, you can see that he really wants to go, but still can't. Please check his
What
legs.
to do?
Could be the server.
I guess he's gonna do it.
Ah, that's it.
Okay.
Gotcha, you tin bastard. Thank you, Doctor. I won't hold you any longer. Go find
Okay,
me
I
one
think
more
that's
thing.
it for today, guys.
Yes, sir.
We are going to be exploring Ghost of Yotai next week.